Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and you've tuned in to another live edition of the LockerGnome Daily Report, and if my inflection and tone have not turned you off already, you're welcome to stay for the entire live broadcast. That is right, this is live. It comes in many magical parts. The first part is open for everybody. Today, I am not talking about Star Wars Battlefront. I know, I talked about it for the past 3 days, but today I'm actually talking about The Force Awakens. That's different, new. We're actually going to be talking about where The Force Awakens, the new Star Wars movie, could be referencing the prequels. I'm not saying they are referencing the prequels, but I'm just saying that it is a likely possibility that they could be referencing the prequels. I'll get into that in a bit. After I do that, I'm going to be showing my Pirillo pick for today, the thing that I found for show and tell. That'll be streamed live for the patrons after I kind of talk about the first topic. And then I'm answering tech questions in today's AMA, and then I'm talking about today's tech news. Full TLDR access is available at chrispirillo.com. Why would I say that The Force Awakens could be compared to the prequels? I'm not saying that it is comparable to the prequels, because quite honestly, the prequels were a completely different set of movies. Did you know that some people are petitioning for George Lucas to come back to direct a future Star Wars movie? I'm not joking. I mean, it's serious. There is a group of people who just apparently did not like The Force Awakens at all. These are contrarians who believe that everything is bad and everything sucks. So they're trying to bring George Lucas back. I don't want to burst their bubble. I don't believe that we live in a universe where that is even remotely possible, though. They're going to try. I think George had his time, and I'm very grateful for what George did. But I'm happy with The Force Awakens. I'm happy with the path Disney is taking. Why would I say, then, that The Force Awakens could be compared to the prequels? Because, quite honestly, completely different films. Completely different feel, completely different darn near everything, apart from being in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. I made an observation, actually 3 observations, that made it feel like the film could have been addressing some of the issues that some people perceived had arisen around the prequels. I'm not a prequel hater. I didn't mind them. I honestly didn't. A lot of people had very visceral reactions to the prequels and just left fandom entirely, and I wasn't like that. The first thing that I noticed was the first line of the film. This will begin to set things right. Now, I'm paraphrasing because I'm not sitting in front of the film. Pardon, I've only seen it 4 times. A lot of people have only seen it once, and I've seen it 4 times, and I'm apologizing. I feel like I'm not doing the film a service, right? It's what, the number 1 grossing film of all time? For the moment. This will begin to set things right. And I thought, okay, that obviously is setting things in motion, for the film. And this thing that Lor San Tekka hands over to Poe Dameron is special in some way. But think about that line. Think about what he said. And again, I'm paraphrasing, and that may have been the line, this will begin to set things right. So for years, what we had in our heads after the original trilogy, what happened to our characters or the story, it was in our heads. Or we had to deal with what is now Star Wars inspired. The EU, no longer canon, legends, stories that some people still cling to as though it was canon, and it's not. And I can't tell you how many arguments I've had with people who, even after explaining to them, look, the thing that you're talking about isn't canon. It's a story. It doesn't exist. But it does, and some fans can't let it go. This will begin to set things right. Think about that. We had the prequels that came around. Some people didn't like it. They were like, no, I'm done. No, they were done. But then that first line of the movie, this will begin to set things right. Think about how deep that is. Not only because of the movie and the MacGuffin, that being Luke Skywalker, the thing that's being chased. This is the thing that changes everything, or could change everything. This will begin to set things right. The prequels, some would argue, didn't set things right. Now, I'm a subscriber of the Star Wars ring theory. Personally, I think Mike Klimo did an amazing job with it. I believe that to be true. The prequels don't hurt me as much as they've hurt others. But this will begin to set things right. Just think about that. Are they referring to the fact that some people, many fans, don't like the prequels at all? And that's what we had to fill in the gap after the original trilogy in terms of Star Wars content. That would have been considered canon. This will begin to set things right. I thought that was a big deal. Not saying, I'm saying. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Don't take my word as gospel truth. It's an idea I'm throwing out there. I thought it was an indirect reference to that. The second thing that could have referenced the prequels, and it's pretty heavy in terms of what the prequels were to fandom, really. Speaking to fans, Kylo's mention, it was rather snide, actually, of the clones to General Hux. They were on the bridge. And Kylo was saying, well, maybe I should just get clones, right? And of course, Hux's reaction was like, no! You know, my forces are trained, they're superior in every way, trained from birth or whatever it was. The Clone Wars obviously took place during the prequels. And a lot of people, because of how the prequels were done, not because they were prequels, right? I think we all wanted to know how Anakin Skywalker came about and the Clone Wars. But then again, if you want to know about the Clone Wars, you should watch the cartoon series. Because honestly, if you are interested, the cartoon series is rather fantastic. The Clone Wars. Quite a few seasons, not too late to catch up. Certainly, they go deeper than the movies ever did. But the fact that the movies were so centered on the turn of the Republic into the Empire, and we're talking about the prequels, and so many people just had negative reactions to not what it was, but how it was portrayed. Not necessarily the Clone Wars happening. They didn't mind the Clone Wars happening necessarily. It was how it was done. It was all in edit. It was all in directing. It was all in acting. It was all the amalgamation of all these things just did not sit well with people. So to bring up the Clone Wars in a negative context, and then for Hux to explain that, or clones in a negative context, and for Hux to explain, no, the way we're doing it now is better. I think, to me, that's where I started thinking differently about Hux. Hux, to me, and I'm going to get to my third point in a second, seems to be the embodiment of the angry fan who just could not stand what happened with the prequels. I mean, granted, it goes a little deeper than that, and I don't think that's why Hux's character exists. But, that so many people had such a negative reaction, I think I'm not going to say it's Disney's way or JJ's way of saying, oh, yeah, the prequels, yeah, they are canon, but, we're going to move forward with things. We're good. We're not going to do anything. We're going to move forward. No edits, no re-edits, no dropping from canon, their movies. We're moving forward. And this, to me, this film was almost speaking to fans that way, and that might be why a lot of fans have enjoyed the film, especially those who did not necessarily enjoy the prequels as much. So, the third point I'm going to make also involves Hux. His speech, it was like multi-pronged, in front of all the forces of the First Order. Well, not all. Let's assume it's not all. Many of the forces of the First Order. They're on Starkiller Base. He was angry. Boy, he was angry. And that, to me, I was like, that could kind of be a symbol of fan anger over the prequels. Like, they're like, this is Hux. And the stupid government and stupid Senate, and they've ruined everything. What do you think a bulk of the prequels were? I mean, it was all about trade federations and negotiations and senates and quorum and government. Some people didn't like that. I thought it was an interesting aspect, certainly, of the Star Wars galaxy. We knew of the Republic. Now we got to learn more about it. But some people were really turned off by the whole, regulations and government aspect of the prequels. They thought it really took away. So, for Hux to say, you know what, that's it, we're done. The government thing, yeah, it was a stupid idea, we're done. We're so done, you know what? We're gonna blow it up, that's it. We're blowing up the Senate. We're doing it. We're doing it live. It's like, that's what he was yelling, right? He was angry. And they're destroying the government and the Senate, which was like the whole crux of the prequels. Now, you might remember the Senate was also referenced in the original trilogy. We just didn't see much of it. It was there, and we knew of it, but we didn't care. It was government stuff. We want to see other things, right, in the Star Wars universe. So, for the First Order to set itself apart by basically destroying any system of government, or let's face it, pretty much the only unifying system of government in the galaxy, that was a big deal. That was a huge deal for Star Wars. I mean, you want to talk about things that really will set the story in play. or at least put it in play, or it can go anywhere from here. I mean, the government's gone. For all intents and purposes, you'll have local governments, but the big thing is gone that Hux destroyed. But Hux could have very well have been the fan, the symbol of the fan, who was angry at the prequels and wanted to move forward. And I thought the film, it spoke so clearly and it resonated with me that they're moving forward and this is the way it is now. And boom. So Hux, to me, was almost like a symbol of the fan, because of what he said and because of the actions that he took or certainly led. So yeah, to me, that was the way the film kind of addressed the prequels without addressing the prequels. I don't know if we're going to see too many other references to the prequels. I don't. It's already been said that, Andy Serkis, the person who played or portrayed Snoke, suggested he is not Darth Plagueis. So I think that's off the table. I don't think it's Darth Plagueis. I thought it might have been, just like Rey might be Luke's kid, might be Han's kid, Ben's kid, Ben Kenobi, or maybe not related at all. We don't know. I don't know. Could be Leia's kid of another man. Could be Kylo's sister. We don't know. I like thinking. I like speculating, but I don't have a definitive answer. But I can't imagine this being Darth Plagueis. I think they're done with that. I really do. I think they're done with that. And that would be one hell of a dovetail, though. I just don't see Disney, doing much with the prequel stuff these days. I don't. And in fact, if I do see Disney doing anything with the prequels, look no further than Lego Droid Tales. A fantastic little series, fun little series, Lego cartoon. Star Wars, C-3PO narrates a retelling of the movies. And it was very humorous, but the first episode was so weird. I mean, it was awesome, but it was weird. Like, they were making fun of Jar Jar. They were making fun of the new vision of Anakin at the end of Jedi after the special edition and the Blu-ray. It was very tongue-in-cheek. It was very self-referential, like self-deprecating to Star Wars, but it was just great. Oh, man. And that's really the only reference I've seen too deeply. And granted, they are still marketing, certain materials around the prequels, but I haven't seen as much of it, honestly. Especially in marketing around The Force Awakens. A lot of it's been original trilogy with the original characters. You still see these classic characters, but rarely, if ever, does a character from the original trilogy pop up. And if it does, it just doesn't move well. Do you know how many Episode 3 Obi-Wan Kenobi 6-inch Black Series figures I've seen warming pegs, or that I'd seen for the past year or so before the Force Awakens stuff came out? No one wanted to get it. I don't know why. Wasn't that exciting of a character. So, I am not saying that these are absolutely gospel truth canon references to the prequels. Hang on, I've got to set up this so that you can see the people who deserve credit at this point. These are some of my patrons at a certain pledge level or higher get their names displayed. I'm actually setting the iPad Pro on top of today's Pirillo pick. I can't talk about that right now because that's next. But if you, I really am curious to know if you caught any other references. I read, it was an article, I can't remember what website, it was forgettable, saying, here are 10 references that the new movie made to the prequels. And I'm like, no, that wasn't it. No, that was a stretch. If you thought my, connections to the past were a stretch, no. There have been people who've really reached, and I'm like, that's not even close. No. And I do not believe that Snoke is anybody we know. I really genuinely do not. I don't think it's Plagueis. You cannot reference the book. The book is no longer canon. It is Legends. I don't want... Legends is like bootleg to me. It's cool. It's interesting stuff, but it's not officially licensed material, so to speak. It was nice to have while we had it, but it in my head doesn't exist. It's a story. I don't care. If you're a fan of the EU, that's great, but that's not Star Wars. It's Star Wars-ish, not Star Wars. Star Wars-y. So the Darth Plagueis book, as great as it was, it's off the table. Some people have even been circulating a picture of Sebastian Shaw's Anakin Skywalker with the scar on his head and comparing it to Snoke and the scar on his head. The scar is completely in a different place. So I don't think it's Anakin Skywalker reborn. That'd be too much. That'd be too far. It just wouldn't. I don't know. I'm getting messages here to remind me to say happy birthday to Cassie Lowe, who happens to be watching. She's a Star Trek fan, but she puts up with my Star Wars talk. Also have a couple of other questions that I will be addressing. Actually, I wonder if I can address this now. It's a question that came in with chat here a couple of seconds ago, which I can't watch when I'm actually talking. This is happening live. Oh, now I can't find it. There we go. You mean if I hate the prequels, that means I'm a part of the First Order? Awesome. Can I be Kylo Ren's Padawan even though he's not fully trained yet and is still seen in teen angst phase? And you know what? Never mind. Not sure it was such a good idea. See, someone was paying attention. Mayfair was paying attention during the movie. Someone's asking about CES and tech. I'll be covering that in the AMA portion of TLDR today. So I will answer that question in just a little while, and that will be just for patrons. Right now, I've said everything I've needed to say. If you notice any other, as I said, any other references to the prequels that you believe is a reference to the prequels in The Force Awakens, let me know. I'd be curious. I mean, just if only to, flesh it out, but I don't want to hear about the Snoke Plagueis theory, because that's all it is. It's a theory. Even with the music sounding similar, I mean, it's Sithy music. It's not, I don't think it's Plagueis. I really don't. Circus pretty much so much as said it. It's not Darth Plagueis. Don't know. I think it would tie it too much to the past, and I think Disney's trying to move forward. Honestly, I don't see many prequels mentions. How many Gungans did you see in The Force Awakens? Not many. So thank you for wanting to talk about this. I love talking about this stuff. I am going to move on to today's Pirillo Pick. Pirillo Picks is a daily series, show and tell. Then I'm moving on to tech questions and then tech news talk. You can watch that if you want. It's happening right now. You can head over to chrispirillo.com to unlock full access to TLDR. Today's free podcast highlight was brought to you by all of my active patrons from chrispirillo.com. If you want access to the full TLDR episodes, both audio, video, past, present, and future, which can be up to an hour long or longer, with even more tech insight from me every weekday, plus other bonus content without ads, and support me at the same time, you can sign up to become one of my supernomies too. This is just a brief taste of what I'm producing for you daily. Again, get more through chrispirillo.com.